Welcome, everybody, to the latest TezTalks Live. I'm William McKenzie of Tezos Commons, and I'll be moderating today's chat. So, looks like we're starting to get a little bit more people. Hope everyone is doing well. Today, we have some very special guests on, Dave Hendricks and William Baxter of Vertalo, that are going to take some time to talk about their backgrounds, their company, what they're working on for the Tezos ecosystem, and answer a few questions. So during this time, we'll be taking questions from the audience. So please feel free to ask away, and we will try our best to get your questions as soon as time permits. But before we start, if you all have watched our previous TezTalks radio episode, we went rather in depth on SDOs, detailing what they are, why Tezos, and more. Today's event will kind of serve as a good follow-up to that. So let's go ahead and kick things off. Dave, William, how are you all doing today? And would you all mind introducing yourselves to the audience for those who may not be too familiar with who you are?
Oh, great. Mac, thanks for having William and I on today. Greetings to the Tezos community. I'm Dave Hendricks. I'm the CEO of Vertalo here in Austin, Texas, as you can see right behind me. Lovely Austin, Texas. And I'm joined by my co-founder and Vertalo CTO, William Baxter. Hey, William, how you doing?
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having us on, Mac.
So Vertalo is an SEC registered transfer agent and a cap table platform that connects and enables the digital asset ecosystem. The history of Vertalo goes back to 2016, but the history of the founders of Vertalo go back a couple of decades. William and I worked together at a downtown.com in New York starting in 2000 called Cheetah Mail. At Cheetah Mail, we changed the email marketing ecosystem. We changed the unit economics. We changed the user interface. We changed the way that brands and publishers used email. And that was a combination of interface and technology that really revolutionized email marketing and took it from something where you had to actually explain to someone, well, why should I collect an email address and why should I send emails to my customers, to where can I sign up after we started showing them what we had built at Cheetah Mail, or shall I say, what my co-founder William and his team had built at Cheetah Mail. I was just lucky enough to sell it. So fast forward to 2016, the 500th anniversary of the German beer purity laws in Berlin. William Gautam Gujral, our other co-founder and general counsel, and I got together in Berlin and we started thinking about the next things that we were going to do. In February of 2017, we founded Series X, the parent company of Vertalo. And in the fall of 2017, we started looking at doing an ICO. But Gautam, our co-founder, who's a securities lawyer and who coincidentally wrote the white paper on ATSs when he was at the SEC, said, we can't do an ICO, but we can issue a token using Reg D. So we went and we issued one of the first security tokens ever. And it was quite a process. And maybe William can tell you a little bit about the challenges we had, which inspired Vertalo and what we built.
Well, thanks, Dave. Yeah, we did what most people do in that circumstance. We collected Ethereum addresses from all of our holders, and we issued tokens to those addresses, went through the painful process of collecting all of that data in a spreadsheet, and one by one going through that, wrote a little programming around it, spent a lot of time checking and double and triple checking the process and the results. And managed to get through it with the correct results, but it was a remarkably painful process. And in the course of doing that, we looked for help from a number of parties and realized that there was no one out there who really knew how to deal with these problems in an effective way. And at that point, we decided that this was a more interesting problem set than the...
Oh, we lost you, William.
Yeah, looks like William cut out.
Yep. So what happened was, I'll just pick up from where William stopped.
All right.
And so what happened was we noticed that there was going to be a problem that everyone who issued a digital security on blockchain would have. And that was, how do they manage their shareholder registry, the list of holders of this token? And so in May of 2018, what we did was we decided to pivot our company from our previous project, like the original version of Vertalo, to becoming a cap table for digital assets, a platform that would manage the shareholder registry, pre, post issuance, and post secondary trading. And so the first thing we did was we said, okay, we're going to be like Carta for crypto. So like everybody else, we first started working with Ethereum. And we took a look at a number of the problems that we saw out in the market. One of the first problems that we saw was this problem of wallets. And so we started working with a custodian in Nevada called Prime Trust to integrate the wallet process into our system and in simplifying the wallets. That led to us in early 2018 creating a keyless custodial wallet solution that would eliminate the necessity of having to use something like a MetaMask or my Ether wallet to store tokens. At the same time, what we were looking at was how do we make token issuance simpler? Because we saw all these token issuance platforms that were out in the market, and they wanted to charge $100,000 or more to issue a so-called security token. And we thought, wow, that's really, really expensive. And we'd done it ourselves for our own offering. So we knew how to write these things. And we knew we could make it a lot simpler and a lot cheaper. And we thought that if you could get rid of the wallet problem and you could make token issuance easier and cheaper, that would increase the adoption, and it would reduce the friction in the market. So fast forward slightly to the summer of 2019, we got in touch with Chris Lawler from Tezos, and he had gotten wind of what we were doing, and we started talking to them. And I had followed the Tezos project since the original 2017 offering, and really liked the ideas about a self-amending ledger, about verifiable contracts, about the proof of stake that was naturally built into the system. And I thought, wow, this looks like it's a step function improvement on Ethereum. And you know, something that was really focused towards the larger capital markets and the kind of assets that we wanted to deal with, which were real assets, you know, real estate, venture funded startups on chain. So last fall, the fall of 2019, we started working with Tezos, and we built our first Tezos security token issuance capabilities and released them at the Crypto Invest Summit. And some of you folks on this call might have seen this video. And we did a token issuance in real time on Tezos. And so that was super exciting. And as we continued our conversations, we saw how much we agreed with the way that Tezos and the Tezos community was looking at managing these assets. And we kind of found ourselves converging on the same place, similar to what the Tezos folks were looking at with FA 1.2 and FA 2. And we felt the same way about the suite of smart contracts. And so we continue to build very, very serious deep tech based on issuing on Tezos. Maybe William, we lost you there for several minutes. It's nice to have you back. William is actually right outside of my office here. He's not on the lake, but maybe William could share a little bit about kind of the serendipity or the synchronicity between us and TQ Tezos and the folks building FA 1.2 and 2 as to the construction of our smart contracts and how we work.
Sure. We had gone through this process under the guidance of our co-founder and general counsel, Gautam Gujral, and come to a fairly thorough appreciation of the constraints that apply in this industry. And addressing them requires fine-grained attention to the permissions regarding manipulation of the tokens that represent the securities, an interesting set of restrictions about who can perform what operations in this context, and in addition, trying to make it usable for the typical investor, which means eliminating to the extent possible the need to understand blockchain technology, as opposed to thinking about these things as assets. And through that process, we developed a suite of smart contracts for Ethereum that we call the V token. And when we had that up and running, and when we encountered the Tezos efforts, what we realized is that there was a fairly large overlap between the conclusions we had reached and the work that we had done in order to implement based on those conclusions, and the work that the FA 1.2 and 2.0 folks had accomplished. And so we've ported the V token over to Tezos. I would say it's not a perfect alignment with the FA 1.2 and 2.0, but it's a large overlap, and we expect and anticipate that overlap will in fact grow over time. As we go forward on each side of this, we'll probably converge on something that serves the industry as a whole. We do have that capability deployed now on both Ethereum and Tezos, and our approach is a chain agnostic approach. And one of the features that we offer is the ability to swap chains from one to another, because we feel that the many people who have deployed already to date on Ethereum may be interested in upgrading to Tezos over time. And so we're facilitating that as part of our approach.
Yeah, speaking on that chain agnostic approach, I believe you all had a demonstration that you would like to show the Tezos community.
Yeah, so William's going to pull up and share a screen right now, and just to tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a cap table. Now, if you don't know what a cap table is, I'll just explain really quickly. A cap table is a ledger of ownership for an asset. And typically, an equity-based company will have a list of shareholders, and the idea is that that list of shareholders and their fractionalized interest adds up to 100%. Okay, and that is a shareholder ledger or a cap table. So we're going to create a round in our system. So this is a cap table system here. What William's doing right now is he's creating a new round under an existing asset. It's called the William Baxter Preferred Equity, and he's creating a round. We're now going to take a list of shareholders or investors in this round, and we're going to bring it onto our platform. So what Vertalo does is Vertalo takes analog assets and we convert and transform them to digital tradable assets. The idea here is that if your interest in an asset is sitting on a spreadsheet somewhere on someone's laptop, you're not going to be able to trade it. But if you can turn that into a digital asset on Tezos, then you can take that to an exchange and then you can trade it with other folks. And that's what we do. We transform illiquid analog assets to tradable digital assets. So what William's done here is William's brought in a stakeholder ledger, and he has, you can see it here, Luke Skywalker, Darth Maul, etc. These folks are all have purchased units in this Series D that he just created. So why don't you take it from here and walk through the process of taking this analog asset, it was on a spreadsheet just a minute ago, and fully tokenizing it, and we're tokenizing it onto Ethereum, and then we're going to swap it over to Tezos, and it's going to live where it should live. It's going to be on Tezos. So, William.
Sure. So let's set up a token then. We're going to start with Ethereum Ganache, and we're going to issue a V token. We're going to use direct custody wallets. That's our ability to spin up wallets on behalf of the investors so they don't have to be blockchain savvy in order to receive their tokens. We'll deploy that. And once we do that, this now has a contract on Ganache. And we can mint those tokens to this set of investors. And doing that issues the tokens and puts on chain this cap table. Once that happens, then these records are recorded on chain and are available for listing on a digital ATS. Now, this is an issued status. You see that this is on Ethereum Ganache, but we anticipate that a lot of the Ethereum deployments of security tokens will want to move to a different chain like Tezos. So let's do that. Again, we're going to issue a V token with the direct custody wallets so as to relieve the burden on the investor to be blockchain savvy. And once we deploy this, that means that we're burning the tokens that we had deployed on Ganache. And once that's done, we will then deploy a new token contract on Tezos. That's in process now. And after that contract is deployed, then we will go through the minting process to create all of these entries to represent the cap table on the Tezos chain. This takes a little bit of time, the chain swap, but you'll see that, okay, so now you see that the deployment is there and the contract address is there. And now we're minting these tokens and replacing the Ganache cap table with the Tezos cap table. And that way we have future-proofed our clients, regardless of where they start. Even if they've started on Ethereum, they can end up with a Tezos token, and they don't have to burden their investors with any knowledge of blockchain in order to do so. The investors don't have to register a blockchain address. They don't have to know how to use a wallet. They are free to think of these holdings as assets rather than as blockchain technology underneath assets. So our approach has always been to simplify in that way and eliminate the need for understanding of the technology from the investor. That's completed. We've issued on Tezos, and here we are. We see that all those things have moved, and that's how simple we've made it to migrate from Ethereum to Tezos.
So this is something that we expect to do quite a bit. There's a couple of thousand issuances that have been done on Ethereum, fewer that have been done on Tezos. But what we've developed is a platform that the people on this call can license so they can go into the business themselves of running security token offerings using the Vertalo platform to produce Tezos formatted security tokens that can then be traded on exchanges that support our V token format or other similar formats. So it's really it's that easy, but getting to this place was not easy for us. What you see there, this is not Envision, by the way. This is not a faked up demo screen that we did with prototypers. There are a lot of sweat and tears that dripped into keyboards to make that happen so easily. cannot overemphasize how difficult it is to make things easy and to make things simple. But that's our mission. In order to increase adoption of Tezos-based security token technology, we've put in months and months and months of hard, detailed system-level work to make this super easy and accessible, so that anyone on this call can call us and say, I want to issue a security token on Tezos. How can I do that? And we can make that something that you can do without having to program anything, without knowing anything about wallets or tokens. We want to make it easy for you, for your clients, and that's what we built, a platform that can be licensed by anyone who's on this call. So we've gone through this relatively quickly. We didn't want to do a super deep platform demo. We're always happy to do that. Typically, I would take like 45 minutes to go through our stuff. And so happy to take questions, talk about some of the other things that you want to cover on the call, Mac. You know, what do you think so far about what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I agree with what you said there. William, thank you for providing that demonstration. But I actually had a few questions, and we've had a few from the audience, but I'll go ahead and ask some of my questions first. So the first question I had was, Vertalo has announced multiple security token offerings totaling up to 500 million in securities and real estate now to take place on the Tezos blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
Can you, Dave, explain Vertalo's move to focus on Tezos for security token issuances?
Yeah, so like I said earlier in the call, what we saw was a focus by the Tezos community in bringing real assets on chain. Because Tezos is already proof of stake, the DeFi stuff is kind of native already to Tezos. People are staking and baking, and they're earning rewards just from getting involved in the community and setting up a baker or delegating or staking. And so it seems like the Ethereum community has really focused very heavily on these derivatives around DeFi. And that's certainly interesting. It's not what's interesting to us personally. What was interesting to us was actually making the community larger. And that meant not just the community of current hodlers of crypto, but bringing in institutions and large bases of assets. So we decided that the Tezos community was really more geared towards bringing real assets on chain. And so the deals that we've been doing have been geared and designed to do just that. So the first one that we announced like that was our deal with Dealbox. Dealbox is a capital advisor and a venture studio in Orange County, California. What they do is they incubate and help support early stage startups in the form of raising capital and getting them through the early stages of their company, those startups. So they've got 22 different issuers that are on their platform that they're helping incubate. And so those issuers are starting to come onto our platform now. As a matter of fact, the previous call I had before this was one of their issuers who's fractionalizing private jet ownership. So they're taking leases and packaging leases in private jets and securitizing them. And we're taking that company, it's called Mint Air, and we're bringing them onto the Vertalo platform, connecting them to a broker-dealer using our platform that's helping them raise money, and then taking those funds and those investors and tokenizing their interest on a Tezos formatted B token. So that's an example of, say, a startup that we're bringing on, and we're bringing on 22 just from that one client. And that client, Dealbox, licensed our platform to tokenize their clients on Tezos. That's why they're working with us. The other area that we're working in is in real estate. we made a big announcement with in conjunction with our work with T0. Since we made that announcement, which was, it was a month or two ago, we've actually acquired a team, and we're now going full on in the tokenization, or first the digitization and then the tokenization of commercial real estate. And the numbers are actually bigger than 300 million. That's just like one portfolio. And so we've actually created Vertalo Real Estate. Vertalo Real Estate is a distinct division of Vertalo, which is focused on digitizing and tokenizing commercial real estate in private REITs, and doing that on the Tezos blockchain, on T0 and on other ATSs and exchanges that will be trading in these formatted securities that we've created. We believe that this is just the beginning. The current financial and kind of the situation that we're all in. I won't get us in trouble by naming what that is that we're in, so that we don't get scanned out. But the current situation that we're in is going to radically change both the fundraising environments and also the real estate market. We believe there's going to be a tremendous amount of restructuring. There's going to be repackaging. There's going to be remediating. And so what that means to us is this is the ideal time to think about digitizing and packaging assets and then tokenizing them on Tezos. And that's the balance of this year is largely going to be working with partners who are going to be packaging these deals on their own systems, bringing those deals onto Vertalo, and then digitizing them and tokenizing them on Tezos. So we expect this to be an extremely large market for us. There will be billions, if not tens of billions, of real estate assets coming online in 2020 that are going to benefit from this new ownership modality. It's a direct ownership in control of the investor that's then tradable on secondary exchanges. That's what our platform facilitates, and that's what our platform manages in terms of data. And so, we chose Tezos because we think that the community is really, really focused strongly on this real estate use case, and we are super excited to work with everyone who's listening to this call to help make these engagements successful.
Interesting. Thanks for your responses on that, Dave. One other question I had was related to your tokenization sandbox program. Recently, you released some details about that. I think it's been probably, a few weeks to a month now. But do you think, for the listeners and viewers, could you go ahead and explain the goal of that program for companies and market participants?
So the Vertalo Sandbox program was created to facilitate our introduction of our technology to the community at large. It's a lot to ask of a client or a partner for them to hand over $100,000 to you and then have you show up 3 months later with a token. Most of the folks we work with don't want to do that. They want to get an idea of how the technology works. They want to see how they can use it to create their own business. They want to be a little more hands-on. People don't love black box solutions. Vertalo, as a platform that's built from the ground up to be white labeled, is an ideal platform to be licensed to people that want to do multiple issuances, that want to, maybe they're a capital advisor, maybe they're a broker dealer, maybe they're an investment bank, maybe they're a consultancy that wants to work with their clients to tokenize their assets. The Vertalo Sandbox program enables those kinds of players to come in for 4 to 6 weeks at no charge other than their time and feedback, and work with Vertalo to model out their tokenizations. By working with us, we learn about their requirements. We help them understand how to use a platform like Vertalo to digitize and tokenize assets. And then after spending 4 to 6 weeks with us, if they like the platform, well, then we give them a discount on a license to go become a mini Vertalo. They can go and digitize and tokenize assets under their brand with their clients without having us being involved in every step. We just then end up being a support for them, so we help them use our platform, but they can go to their clients and create a business on top of Vertalo technology with their brand. And so, if I didn't say that it's a sales gimmick, I'd be lying. It's absolutely a gimmick to sell people licenses to Vertalo. But I'll tell you, it's a pretty good gimmick because you get to try it, and if you like it, then you can buy it. We're not going to hard sell our people into getting on this platform and then, give them a token 3 months later. They can produce the tokens themselves for their clients. That's the purpose of the sandbox. Learn how to do it yourself, and then make money doing it. And so it's been a very successful program. We filled up our first 10 slots almost instantly. We have another 20 issuer type partners in the queue right now, as well as having ATSs and custodians and broker dealers also who are in the sandbox figuring out how to integrate their solutions into the Vertalo ecosystem network. So that's the Vertalo Sandbox program.
Very interesting. It's nice to hear all that interest within that. But I guess for our next question, in terms of infrastructure and the overall regulatory landscape, where do you, Dave, or William, if you want to jump in, see the STO markets at this present time?
Well, there's nothing that keeps security tokens from being issued or traded now. It's certainly not illegal. What we do are Reg D and Reg S issuances, and we happen to digitize and tokenize them. That's completely legal. The issues related to regulation have to do with settling the trade at the broker dealer. Today, you cannot settle a trade with a digital asset with the same broker dealer that does the order matching. And we're working very closely with regulators and with lawyers and the other ecosystem participants, the ATSs and the custodians, to lay the rails, to create the plumbing, to make sure that the programmatic, low friction trading of security tokens is legal and is simple to do. Are all the tracks laid? Theoretically, yes. Practically, it's hard to do. We think that this will be solved in this summer, if not sooner. And then the way this is done, I'll have William explain how this is done, is a mix of regulatory rails and technology. And so, William, why don't you share a little bit about how our system and the way you've designed our platform helps issuers comply with securities laws so that they can do this in compliance?
Sure. So when we set out to design the V token,
we lost you again, William.
Looks like William cut out again.
So hold on. I'm just going to tell William, hey, William, we lost you again. So look at this, the sneaker net here. I'm so sorry, guys. So while William is playing with his Commodore 64 computer that he's programmed all of Vertalo on, we designed our smart contracts to help facilitate the setting of a good control location. And what that means is that we parcel out the tasks related to order matching and settlement based on the controller and transfer functions within our suite of smart contracts. And I think William's coming back on, and then he can talk a little bit about that. I have no idea what's going on with his machine. So
Nor do I. Evidently, Zoom doesn't want to hear from me today. But
there we go.
Yeah.
So we were talking about setting a good control location using our smart contract. That's where we're at.
Yes. So setting a good control location is one of those phrases that doesn't mean much to people from the tech side when they first encounter this industry. But once you get into it, it has a whole lot of meaning. And it boils down more or less in technical terms to who has the privilege to exercise which methods associated with a smart contract suite. And we've designed our smart contracts to allow that fine-grained control so that we can adapt to the regulatory landscape as it is today and as it will be tomorrow. One of the things to recognize here is that the securities industries was not created by technical people. Technical people tend to look at a problem, understand its architecture, implement something, and then stand back and let it go. The securities industries were created by attorneys whose view of the world is we can always renegotiate. And that implies a level of flexibility that is quite a challenge to implement. That's what we've set out to do with our vToken suite. And to that end, we've endowed it with capabilities to manage fine-grained control over the different methods that are available in the tokens, to update permissions, to upgrade the rule sets that that control how tokens trade or how trades are prohibited, and also to allow the required sign-off at various points in the process. The SEC has particular views about who can do what in this space, and there are several regulated entities at work, like broker-dealers or custodians. And as Dave mentioned earlier, if you're a broker-dealer running an ATS, you're not allowed to settle a trade. That would be a very natural thing to do in a security token from a technical perspective, but it doesn't fly under the regulations. So we've designed the vToken today. So we've designed the vToken to accomplish two goals. One is to allow compliance with today's regulations, and the other is to keep the door open to compliance for tomorrow's, what we hope are improved regulations.
Thanks for that, William. There's quite a few questions that's mounting up from the audience, but I guess just going off on that, I have one last question for you all, and that's pertaining to, similar to my first question, how do you see the STO market evolving in the next few years, or decade for that matter?
So let's split out the concept of STO and digital assets. The concept of an STO is kind of was the thing that came after ICO, where people thought that security tokens were something that someone was going to produce first. Okay, someone would produce a token, and then an investor would come and buy that token. That's a valid concept, but because of the technical hurdles for an investor and the low quality of initial offerings for STOs, there wasn't a lot of interest in investing in these things. The combination of a mysterious token and an early stage company with a low net asset value, that was not an attractive proposition for a lot of investors. So it wasn't successful because one, it was expensive to do. Two, it only appealed to a certain number and kind of investor. And then what they ended up having at the end of that was some digital shares in a underperforming early stage company that were sitting in a MetaMask wallet. That wasn't very attractive. And so people thought that people were not interested in security tokens because of that. And that's absolutely false. What people want to do is they want to invest in great companies. And people also want secondary liquidity from private assets. What digital assets and this kind of digital assets, security token, does is it confers direct ownership, like a direct title to an underlying asset in the form of a smart contract. You can take physical possession of that and put it into a wallet that you own. That is also a programmatic or programmable equity or debt instrument that has certain rights and restrictions that enable you to then trade it on a venue. The real attraction of a so-called security token is to take a previously illiquid asset and make it more liquid, to make it easier to transfer and trade, and to basically enable the fractionalization of an asset that previously was paper based, okay, and it made it, it took weeks to buy and sell. With a smart contract based ownership method that enables you to trade this on an ATS or an exchange, you get something you didn't get before, liquidity. And then maybe you get a connection to the issuer, which enables better information, so meaning lower information asymmetry, programmatic payment of dividends, other rewards or dividends paid, lots of things that you can't, that have to be handled by all these other service providers, and which make it very expensive for the issuer and for the investor. So what we see is a more efficient market driven by these digital contracts that are, basically programmable equities. Our belief, significantly or substantially all paper-based private assets will move digital in the next 5 years. If it's not legislated, it'll just be driven by investors who actually want to have that in their possession and want to have the control that is conferred by this kind of contract, versus thinking that they might own a share of something that's on a ledger somewhere else on a spreadsheet. It's just like, everyone had landline phones, a couple of people got handheld phones, and eventually everyone got rid of their landline phones. Now everyone has mobile phones. This is basically mobile phones. And as mobile phones advanced, they had more capabilities, and they became the phone, not just a mobile phone. It's just the phone now. So we think it's a big market. Not sure, William. You're on Mac. You're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, what you said there makes a lot of sense. I especially liked your reference to, not just strictly calling them STOs, rather digital assets.
Yeah, we transform certificated, paper analog assets to more tradable digital assets, and you can call them tokens if you want. What you call them isn't as important as the qualities, the features, the benefits that they possess and confer.
Absolutely. So I guess we can go ahead and move into some questions from the audience. The first question we have was from Dutch Tezos. Dutch Tezos asked, do you have a timeline when the real estate token on Tezos will be launched? And will it be available to trade on T0? Dave,
we don't.
You guys?
Yeah, we're not exactly sure. We're still working through some kind of regulatory hurdles and bumps, not related to T0 so much, but related to the the other part of the control location question related to the proper custodian or bank. I think that we'll get that sorted out this summer. And it's not one token, it's actually a series of offerings. So it's not one big $300 million offering. It's actually a series of offerings. And that's just a story about one issuer. We have a lot more that are in queue. So, and some of them will be on T0, and some of them might be on North Capital. Some of them might be on Archac. Some of them might be on Texture. Some of them might be on Merge. Some of them could be in Liechtenstein. It's T0 is a great partner of ours, but wherever you are, it could be on a Dutch exchange as well, or in Gibraltar. So, give us a call. We'd love to work with you.
Yeah, and just one quick note on that. I think people see, $300 million and like, oh, it's just gonna be one SDO, but it's actually several others.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I definitely think that's important to point out.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question we have was also from Dutch Tezos. He asked, which other assets besides real estate does Vertalo see that there is currently a demand for?
Debt is a fantastic asset for tokenization. It's the largest market, kind of up there with real estate. And we think that you can expect to see debt objects or other income producing objects come online. The thing about these digital assets is if you can create something which has an underlying value or has an income stream, and someone wants to invest or buy it, then you can digitize and tokenize it. So, it could be pools of startups. It could be some kind of income stream. It could be the Brooklyn Bridge. As long as someone actually owns title to it and they can fractionalize it, then you can digitize and tokenize it. So there's not really anything that you can issue a regular share against is something that you can digitize and tokenize.
Indeed. I think just going off on that, one of the most interesting things, which you brought up a little bit earlier, was centered around dividends. Instead of being paid some speculative token or just some value that's derived off a burning supply, with SDOs, if you will, digital assets preferably. You actually get your value derived from something that's real, such as a skyscraper, for instance. So that's something interesting that I find.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really it's up to your imagination, and then does someone want to buy it?
Right.
If no one wants to buy it, well then don't do this. But if it's got an underlying value and throws off cash or has enterprise or other value, why not digitize it?
Absolutely. All right. So this is the last question that we have from the audience. It is from Thomas. Hopefully, I don't butcher this. Chinchillana. Thomas said, "What does the collaboration with T0 mean for the Tezos community, or as a long-term investor of Tezos?"
I can't speak for T0, but I do know that TQ Tezos and T0 have been working together. There's already been announcements in the press about T0 and Tezos, I believe, and I think it's I think it's positive. I don't see how it's anything but outstanding news for the Tezos community. I think that when you've got a firm like Vertalo that is formatting its digital assets in Tezos, we will be working with exchanges and ATSs such as T0 to bring those Tezos assets, Tezos formatted assets, to those exchanges. So it's great for T0, it's great for Tezos, it's great for Vertalo. It's great for you, bakers, stakers, and Tezos community folks.
Awesome, Dave. Thanks for your insight there. I think I don't see any more questions from the audience, so I guess we can go ahead and start to wrap this up. Dave, is there anything that you wanted to add before we wrap this up, or William?
So if you want to reach out to Vertalo, you can come to www.vertalo.com. If you want information about how you can work with Vertalo, you can send an email to info@vertalo.com. If you want the hardest but most rewarding job in digital assets and technology, you can try to find William.Baxter@vertalo.com, and he's always looking for amazing people. And if you're in Austin, Texas, well, y'all give us a ring and maybe we can say hello.
Absolutely. For the audience, be sure to check out those links. And Dave, William, it was nice speaking with you today.
Thanks for having us on, Mac. It was great to be here.
See you,
Thanks,
Dave.
Mac.
See you, William.